Welcome to Driven by Dreams. I'm excited to welcome today's guest, Felena Hanson. Felena is a longtime entrepreneur and marketing maven. Her latest venture, Hera Hub, is a spa-inspired shared workspace and business accelerator for female entrepreneurs. She has 2 company-owned locations in San Diego and licensed locations throughout the country. She's on a mission to support thousands of women in the launch and growth of their business. Get ready to be inspired by her journey. Hi, Felena. I'm so glad to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to join you.
Could you start by telling us a bit about yourself and how Hera Hub came to be?
So I spent my 20s in tech startups, got laid off 3 times by the age of 30. 2 of the companies sold, one ran out of money, which is typical in the startup world. And my upbringing, both my parents were and are entrepreneurs. So it was, kind of almost feel like my father was saying to me, why are you working for somebody else? And so I took that opportunity to start my own business. At age 30, I started a marketing agency, which I had for 8 years. I took college during that period of time. That's another whole story, but I'll pause there. And then I started Hera Hub 14 years ago, which is a co-working space and business accelerator for female entrepreneurs.
After losing your marketing role in 2003, you mentioned that you pivoted to entrepreneurship. So, what was that transition like and what kept you going?
The transition was, I don't want to call it easy, because entrepreneurship is never easy, but I think much like what's happening now, a lot of people are getting pushed out of jobs, perhaps they may have had their entire career, right? What we see happening with the federal government and jobs that are supposed to be like really safe jobs, so to speak. I think given that I grew up in an entrepreneurial environment, it was easier for me. And I think just given I was what I call forced entrepreneurship, I mean, I certainly could have gone back and gotten yet another job, but it just seemed honestly the most logical thing for me to do, which was, take the experience that I had gained and try it on my own, so to speak. What kept me going is community, and that's really the theme of my business now. I got out there, I did a lot of networking, I got involved in a lot of different organizations when I first started Perspective Marketing, my prior business, and that's actually what led me to launch Hera Hub, which is that opportunity to, connect with other people that are doing the same thing, learn from each other, get advice, grow with each other, if you will. So it really, one thing really led to the other as far as, my entrepreneurial journey, if you will.
So, could you tell us a bit more about Hera Hub? What's your vision?
So I'll back up a little bit. So Hera is the Greek goddess of women, and I chose that name for a lot of reasons. So Hera's symbol is the male peacock feather, because she was known to have big, beautiful eyes and was very watchful, protected, guarded women through every stage of their life. So the journey of launching Hera Hub was my community that I had built and serving more women and helping them maybe even take their first steps into business, which is difficult. Business, especially in the technology space, is very male dominated, right? There's not a lot of places where you can go and be in a room full of women. And so for me and my journey, I wanted to create a space that was, a place where women could come and really say, I don't know what I'm doing, I need support. And you can't do that always in certain environments. So I saw a need in the market. I decided to take a model that, WeWork was starting the same year I started, 14 years ago. But really develop something that was different, that really served women, that really gave them a space that was their own, if you will. And over the course of those 14 years, I've layered in a lot of education. That's part of my background. I taught college when I had my last company just for fun on the side. So that's why we call ourselves a business accelerator. We're not just a co-working space, a shared workspace. We do daily programming to help folks, launch and grow their business. And then we have 2 formal business accelerators as well.
For those in our audience who don't know, could you explain what exactly is a business accelerator?
Yeah, so it's tricky because there's not a good definition. I mean, there is a definition, but people use that word kind of interchangeably with a business incubator, for example. So people may be familiar with Y Combinator or Techstars, which are, well-known business accelerator programs. So we do have basically 2 9-week programs. One is for launch stage folks and one is for growth stage folks. So 2 very different curriculums. They're online programs that we've built out. I built these platforms based on my experience and the experience of the community for the last 14 years. And people go through as a cohort typically. So we're a public benefit corporation, and one of our 4 givebacks is to find program partners to pay for a group of, say, 10 or 20 people to go through the program together in that 9 weeks. And they basically, in the Launch Academy, they go through the 17 steps, the foundational steps to launch a business. Think customer discovery, lean business canvas, bookkeeping, entity setup, naming, all the basics, right, of launching a business. And in the Growth Academy, we're covering 8 major areas of the business, including business development, marketing, funding, finance, kind of the broad categories. So it's an online platform that's built out, and then folks get together for 2 hours a week on Zoom as a cohort, as a classroom, virtual classroom, so to speak. And in those 2 hours, we're really dialoguing, what did you learn? Where are you stuck? Where do you need support? Where do you need feedback? How are you applying this to your business? So an accelerator, think of it like a college class, if you will, where people are going through a program together. I think entrepreneurship education is very broken for a lot of reasons. I've been talking about that more recently, and I think programs like this and Techstars and Y Combinator and all the business accelerators that are out there are really the answer to fixing that problem. The idea of going to school for 4 years and learning entrepreneurship is, I think, kind of absurd, to be honest. It's you don't learn entrepreneurship out of a book. You don't learn it from a lecture. You learn by doing. And so that's what we really teach at Hera Hub.
You mentioned there was a community that like this that helped you when you started out. So what key lessons did you learn from there?
Oh, that's like a 27-hour conversation. I'll just leave it as you need community. Community teaches you need community. I mean, the biggest mistake an entrepreneur can make is doing it on their own, right? Is sitting in their spare bedroom, trying to figure it out. You need people around you. You need community. I think a big mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make is they think, I'm going to hire a coach. And there's nothing wrong with coaches. Coaches are great. But you're now putting all your eggs in one basket, and you're relying on one person to tell you exactly what to do, to hold you accountable, to point you in the right direction. Why not have 10 people or 20 people or 100 people surrounding you, supporting you, giving you feedback? It does mandate that you are someone who follows through and you have discipline, right? Because you don't have somebody standing over you, right? But you have all kinds of amazing people around you that can, say, hey, I've been there, done that. Here's how I handled it, right? And it's not this sort of, relationship where it's like I'm paying for this advice. Everybody is helping each other. And I think that's what we're missing not only in entrepreneurship, but in life in general, right? We've become so isolated, so siloed. And yeah, we can get information on business on TikTok or Instagram, but is that a community that you really trust? And is someone just trying to sell you something at the end of the day?
I know personally when I'm asking people for advice and I ask multiple people, I get multiple different opinions, and sometimes that just confuses you on what you want to do. So, how do you take all those opinions and find a way that you want to go?
Yeah, you have to trust yourself and you have to trust your gut. You have to build that confidence. And I think that's why a lot of people use business coaches is they just want somebody to tell them what to do. But that doesn't teach you how to run a business. That's just somebody telling you what to do. So you have to develop that skill. You have to take in the information and you have to be able to make a decision on, what is the right path for you. And that's a muscle, right? That's trusting your gut. That's trusting your judgment, so to speak. And the more you do that, the better you're going to get at decision making. I honestly, I'll say it, I think people are not taught decision making now, frankly, right? And I think it's an important skill to develop, to grow, to know, and to trust yourself.
Well, thank you for sharing that. What are some of the most powerful things you've seen happening when women come together in this kind of shared environment?
Gosh, every day it's just incredible. The stories that get exchanged in the kitchen, the person you happen to run into that's like, wow, you're doing that? Oh my gosh, I'm doing that too. Let's talk more, right? It's the serendipity, oftentimes in a co-working space. Every day it's exchanging ideas, it's hearing perspectives, it's finding a resource. We do that both in the space but also online. We have an online community platform where we're really giving people an opportunity to ask those questions in a safe, supportive environment. New businesses have formed, people have gotten funding, and every day people are getting support, resources, advice from other members who have been there, done that.
What are some of the most common challenges you see women facing when they're launching or scaling a business, and how does Hera Hub help them overcome those?
Yeah, I think specifically for women, and I'm sad to say this, and it's a gross generalization, but it's confidence. It's just confidence, really. I mean, we're smart, we can figure it out, but it's being willing to say, I can figure it out, right? We don't have to know all the steps to launch a business. We can figure it out along the way. Having a good community is also important in this process, right? And being surrounded by the right people. But it's just confidence to do it. And I think women, and it's getting better, I will tell you. I heard a young woman say yesterday on one of our virtual programs that she is building a YouTube channel to show people what it's like to figure out how to be an entrepreneur, right? To show it. It's like the get ready with me, right? Of entrepreneurship. And previous generations weren't willing to do that. A lot of people feel like they have to like build in the background and close the curtain and then open the curtain once the business is ready to go. And I think younger generations, I guess give credit to maybe TikTok, I don't know, but they're more willing to kind of show the dirty parts of like figuring it out and document that and share that with others. And I think that's really, really healthy because that's what business is. And I've been in business over 20 years and I'm still figuring it out every day. And that's okay. That's part of it. There's no like, okay, check the box, I'm good. It's changing every single day, which is what is fun about entrepreneurship. It keeps you on your toes.
Well, you've worked with over 13,000 women, so what are some traits or habits that set these successful women entrepreneurs apart? Other than confidence, which you just...
Other than confidence, yeah. I mean, there's so much related to that, right? Tenacity, grit. Grit's one of my favorite attributes as an entrepreneur, right? And that all does kind of tie back to confidence, resourcefulness, being willing to get your hands dirty, frankly, and being okay with failure. I mean, truly, like I fail every single day. I'm figuring things out every single day. And not everybody, honestly, is cut out for that. I want to be candid. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is meant to be or is willing to be gritty and figure it out. I always say you have to be uncomfortable with being, or you have to be comfortable rather with being uncomfortable as an entrepreneur because you're just always figuring it out. So those are definitely some of the attributes beyond, of course, having a good idea and maybe having access to some funding depending on what kind of business you have.
You mentioned that you grew up in an entrepreneurial kind of environment and you were kind of forced into entrepreneurship. But when was that point where you discovered that entrepreneurship is for you?
Um, I don't know, to be honest. I don't have a clear answer. I mean, I think, just getting frustrated with people making bad decisions, frankly, or decisions I think are not advantageous to my future, is probably the push that I needed to do my own thing. So, frustration with the status quo, if you will. And a lot of people, as we speak, as we record this, are having to make that decision, right? They've, again, maybe been civil servants their entire career and their whole life has been upended. Really is it's a trying time for many, but maybe an amazing opportunity for some.
Well, you've grown Hera Hub to 7 locations. What were some pivotal decisions or turning points that helped scale the brand?
Licensing was a big one. Creating a business model that I could scale, right? Creating a system, a process, a documentation of everything that we do, and then empowering other people to take the brand, the system, and model and build their own business around that. That was really probably one of the best decisions that I made. It hasn't been easy. It's not easy to scale a business, but it's been a great learning experience, and I continue to learn every day.
Why did you decide to use a licensing model instead of franchising? And could you, for our audience, explain what both of those are briefly?
Yeah, so franchising is most well known, think Subway or McDonald's, right? And there's plenty of examples beyond that, but those are the kind of things that come up to people's mind when you say franchise, right? We have a system, we have a brand, we have a model. Every hamburger has to weigh 1.25 pounds. I don't know, I'm making that up, obviously, but we're cookie cutter, so to speak. The reason why we went with a licensing model is it allows a little more flexibility, so to speak. It doesn't have to be so cookie cutter. And, the type of person we're attracting to open a Hera Hub location isn't the type of person that's attracted to a franchise model. Oftentimes, franchises are bought in a territory or an area. Somebody agrees to open 5 or 10 locations within this, zone. That's not what we're looking to do. We're really looking to connect with women who probably have had a bit of experience. Maybe they've had some time in corporate, some time as an entrepreneur, and they're ready for that maybe second or third chapter in their career, and they really want to give back. And it's not like they're looking to buy 5 locations and hire a manager at every location. Like, they want to be connected to the community. So we are looking for people who are leaders, who are connectors, and who really want to build a platform for female entrepreneurship in their city.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You wrote a book. Could you share a bit about Fight Club, Rebel, Reinvent, and Thrive, and what it meant to you personally?
Yeah, I wrote a book partially because I had people saying you should write a book. Partially to share my journey. I was hit by a fire truck when I was 22 years old, right out of college, and broke 27 bones in my arms, legs, and face. I have titanium everywhere, and had a very long recovery, as you can imagine. And, folks have been through, I'm not alone, right? People have been through plenty of worse things. Some people physical challenges, some people emotional challenges. But I wanted to share my perspective going through that and what that, did for me on the outcome of that. And I wanted to share a bit of my journey because it's the journey of a lot of people, right? We have a dream, we go to college, we go into corporate, that kind of thing. And that dream isn't really the dream anymore for most people, right? It's not the reality for most people. It might be the dream. I also wanted to share the stories of other women and give women, and men, of course, they're welcome to read it, but give folks who are thinking about launching a business and are maybe scared to do it and are not sure if it's the right thing for them to do, some practical exercises to go through to figure out what they want to do and what the right fit is for them, what type of business is the right fit. And then I wanted to also be able to document what is now the Launch Academy, the 17 foundational steps to launch a business. And so I document that, like highlights of the launch sequence towards the back of the book as well. And then it directs the reader to the online platform, which is launchandgrow.org. Flight, as in taking flight as an entrepreneur. There's an old movie called Fight Club with Brad Pitt. It's kind of a cult classic now. So it's a play on the movie Fight Club, a play on the title. And then Rebel, Reinvent, and Thrive. The rebellion is a bit of my childhood and having two very rebellious parents. And then the reinvention I did in my early 30s of, going through a divorce and losing my job at the same time and kind of feeling like everything was imploding. And then the thriving of, how to actually build a business that, you're passionate about and fulfills the things that you've probably been dreaming about for a long time.
It's really inspiring how you bounced back from that. That sounds tough.
Thank you. Thank you.
The first time I read your book title, I accidentally misread it as Fight Club.
Yeah, most people do. Yeah, exactly. I'm not, suggesting people fight, flight, like taking flight. Yes, it's a common mistake. No worries.
So what led you to start your YouTube series, Women Who Exit, and how did it complement the mission of Hera Hub?
Yeah, it's just a passion project, to be honest. We hear so many stories of men who have sold their business. I sold my business, blah, 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 kind of. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've sold 10 businesses, right? But women oftentimes take a different approach to business. I think a lot of women don't start a business that they think, I'm going to sell this someday. Most women start businesses, I like to say, to either help others or heal themselves in a lot of cases. And so they don't set off to build a system, a process, something that they can maybe potentially sell. And so I wanted to document some stories of women who had sold their business and have them share what it was like. What was it like to build something? Some folks built it to sell. Some folks found themselves in a situation and had to sell and weren't prepared to do that. But to inspire more women to think about what it takes to build something that you can sell.
That's amazing. You mentioned earlier that Hera Hub is a certified public benefit corporation. So what does that mean in practice, and why was that designation important for you?
Yeah, I've had over the last 14 years so many people ask me if we're a nonprofit organization, and the answer is no. And there's a very, practical reason we're not a nonprofit. Nonprofit sustainability is an issue, and we're seeing that with so many grants being cut right now to nonprofits. The population we are supporting is one that typically can afford a couple $100s a month for a membership. And there are so many, I mean, even where I am in San Diego and our region, there are 13,000 nonprofit organizations. There's so many organizations that are really deserving of those dollars and need those dollars. So I started looking at other options outside of being a nonprofit. And I guess it was about 6-7 years ago, I found this public benefit corporation status. It's not a B Corp, that is different, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole with that, but it's interesting. OpenAI just, I believe, decided to start an entity because they started as a nonprofit, but to start, if I'm explaining this correctly, I'm not sure, but another segment or entity within the company that is a public benefit corporation. So it's been in the news a little bit recently. So public benefit corporation is really just a way to show that you are giving back in some way, shape, or form. So you edit your articles of incorporation and you have to lay out how you are going to benefit the public, and you do an annual report every year to report out on that. So our 4 pillars are our academies, finding sponsors so folks can go through those free or low cost. Last year, we gave away about $250,000 in sponsorship to folks to go through that program. We donate space to nonprofit organizations that align with our giving mission. Our Guru program, which are subject matter experts that donate their time to the community, think like office hours with a professor. And then lastly, our ambassador program is a trade membership program for folks that are maybe in work transition, maybe they've just graduated, maybe they're just starting their entrepreneurial journey and they perhaps can't afford membership, but they still want to be part of the community. They do a work trade program for 4 hours a week. So that is our public benefit give back, those 4 areas, and then we report out on the metrics for that and how we meet those goals every single year.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Felena, and I think this is a good place to start wrapping this up. So do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
It's something I said before, I'll say it again, don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. Whatever you're doing, don't do it alone. And TikTok is not the answer, to be honest. You feel like perhaps you have community because you have followers, or you're following, or you're DMing somebody. That's not community. Like, get out of your house, go find people, go to an event, go to a startup event in your city, go to a co-working space, and find other people that are doing something similar or different, but have the same drive as you, the same, passions as you perhaps. Don't do it alone.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Felena. It's been really inspiring to hear your journey.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been fun.